Welcome to the Invisible Strings podcast. I am Joey Weifels. I'm a PhD student in kinesiology and a yoga teacher. In this podcast, I'm interviewing someone that knows movement extraordinarily well. It's Alex Cámara. He's from Mexico and he won the national championships in karate there. Uh, I talk about him with that, and we also talk about motorcycling, racing, and kiteboarding. So here's Alex Cámara.
Going great, man. It's going great. It's getting there. It's growing. Lately I've been a little bit paused because I've been training really hard because I'm going to World Cup in September. So yeah, I haven't done, much traveling and adventures. But after the World Cup, I'm actually gonna be traveling 2 weeks around the UK and Ireland. So yeah,
Amazing.
and it's gonna be, more more constant the content. But yeah.
So, what does your training look like right now?
Right now the training, it's been really intense, man. It's been hours a day, every day. I pretty much rest Sunday, sometimes also Saturday. But yeah, training right now, it's been quite intense. I don't have a diet per se, but I do take care of what I eat. I have been with no alcohol, no like desserts and these kind of things for over a month now, since I knew that I was going to the World Cup pretty much. And I don't mind the alcohol parts, but the desserts and these kind of things, for me, it's like, oh my God, you're taking part of my life with it.
So,
But
is there
it's
in karate,
temporary.
is there like a weight class in karate that you have to worry about?
No, there's different kind of competitions. So then you have the competitive side of the karate, that is like WKF. They do have weights categories. In my style, that it's more traditional, more like Okinawa, pretty much is your degree and age. So for example, my category will be between 22 and 44 years old. And doesn't matter if you are 60 kilograms or you're 120 kilograms of muscle and you have 2 meters height. I mean, it doesn't matter, because the principle of karate, it's pretty much you need to be able to defend yourself against whoever, gets in front of you. So that's why they don't classify it by weight, but more by age and your degree, pretty much.
And your degree is your belt?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So, what belt are you right now?
Right now, I'm third brown belt. So actually, my next belt will be the black one. Trying to see if I'm gonna be able to actually, do my exam for the black belt in, during the World Cup in London. And if not, it will be February here in hometown. So yeah,
Okay.
man, it's been intense.
How did you qualify you had a game in Mexico, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we did have a national cup here in Mexico City about 3 weeks ago. And so I went there, and yeah, and I came back with the first place in kata and second place in kumite, that it's like freestyle combat. Yeah,
Okay.
it was
And does the jury decide who wins, or is there
yes. So you have 5 judges. You have one on each corner, and then you have one in the middle going around, with the fighters, pretty much. That's when it comes to kumite. So that's the combats part of the competition. And then yeah, whenever you get a point, the judges will lift a flag of your color. So you have red and you have whites, and depending on who gets the point, it's the flag they will reach. And when it comes to kata, then yeah, you have only 4 judges on the corners. Well, you have 5, but all of them are outside. So you have 4 on the corners, and then you have the main judge, and they will either do flags if you are doing the kata at the same time with other person, or they'll do like you know qualify your performance if it's only you. But usually it's 2 people all the way to the semifinals. When you reach semifinals, then it's 1 by 1. You get to choose the kata, and then you have the 4 judges going with numbers, and at the end, whoever gets more points, it's the winner, pretty much.
And what are the criteria for the judges? Are they looking for how stable you are or how well your
Yeah,
technique?
I mean, experienced judges, they look for, of course, that the kata, form, details, strength, speed, rhythm, and small details like if your foot is like this and not like this, or if they're like separate each other, or when you're doing the step, you're going like this and not, getting your both legs, so pretty much you're not doing compression to do the attack. These kind of things take points out of you, and also your attitude, like, your facial expression, you're like, like very, decisive of the movements you're doing at the moment, so it's a lot of things they qualify, actually, to be honest.
So this is very interesting to me when you say like a compression in an attack or even the facial, like your expression. There's a lot of control going in every little bit.
Oh yes,
Um,
it's a stressful at the beginning, to be honest, because it's a lot of things you need to control and you need to be aware of. So of course you need to go like step by step, but yeah, when it comes to competition, you're thinking about everything, but at the same time you have to not think and just flow, because that's, part of, you've been training for. But at the end of the day, yeah, you're still thinking about it. But yeah, it's a lot of, compression and not because, so let's say, for example, okay, I'm gonna fight you, we're gonna have a tournament in committee, and I'm always like, super strained, like, your body becomes slower, you get tired way faster, way faster, and it's inefficient. So pretty much you have to be very relaxed, arms relaxed, but at the same time, your hands need to be closed. So when you just by closing your hands, you can feel your forearm, getting, hard. So you need to be able to separate, the strength you put in on your hands, on the one you put it on your forearm and your, shoulders and biceps and, everything. Pretty much the only thing you need to be strong all the time, it's your core, and that's it, because that's where you're gonna have, the hip movements at the end of the day, to rotate, to attack, to defend. So getting that control, it takes time. So you need to be efficient at the end of the day. You need to be relaxed. And when you attack or when you defend, at the pretty end of the movement is when you have a full, compression of all the muscles. So that's why, karate, punches and strikes are very, very strong, because at the end of the day, all the muscles get tension, and then you connect everything from your heels all the way to the hand or the kick, depending on what you're doing. But your base has to be very strong, be to settle down, and then you need to connect and understand how the muscles work. So when we're doing the classes, they teach you the movements and everything, what to do, when it works and everything, but they also teach you what muscles are going in, into the game for that movement. So understanding that, it takes, reading and, study pretty much, to understand what you have on your body, because you cannot control something you don't know you have, So yeah, so in karate, there's a lot of that, understanding your body and how it connects, and it's kind of hard, the outer muscles are pretty easy to understand because you can see them, like, so like if you flex, you can see your bicep, but for example, on the hip and the legs, the more deeper muscles that you cannot see working, it's the ones that are harder to understand, especially on the leg, hip, and butt area, pretty much. It's
that
that's
is
the hardest part.
that's been my experience in many of these sports as well, that especially the core and the hips, the muscles are very internal, they're very hard to understand. I'm wondering, because this is very standard in yoga as well, why the core has to be active, even when you're not punching. Is that a control thing? Is that a sort of
It's
because
more
you're
an awareness. Because attacks takes less than 1 second, you know. So in less than 1 second, you can have a punch or a kick, on your stomach, or like on the sides or something. So you need to be always be ready for it. First, second, everything connects through the core and the hip. So if you don't have strength all the time, your body is disconnected pretty much. So you need to
exactly
have, upper and lower part connected at every second, of the kata and the kumite, and pretty much always. There's sometimes where like, like just standing in class and the sensei will come and just like punch you, to see if you're, applying strength all the time. And pretty much what they're looking for is that it becomes something automatic, something natural for you, and not, oh, I need to, okay, I'm ready. And it's not like you're like full, putting your full strength into it. It just has to be, like I'm talking to you right now, and I'm putting strength into it. If I go like this, then yeah, but if it's just like half of it, a little bit less than half, just be able to have connected all the time, because again, it's less than a second. So in less than a second, you need to compress. So you have to put strain on your core to be able to move your leg, but you don't move your leg, you move your hip, and your hip moves your leg, you know? So having that done in less than a second, it's really hard. So it's better just to have the core, ready all the time.
very interesting. Okay, so the core is ready and it
Yes.
connects. Uh, that makes a lot of sense from what I study with the fascia as well. All your myofascial lines, the connection between the muscles, they those lines they run through your core, and they have to. And like you're saying, like those hips, they move my leg, and my foot is grounded, right? You're making
Yep.
that connection with your muscles, and then somehow you when you make a punch or a kick, are you everything is relaxed until the final moment of the hit, or is
Yes.
there gradual, is there changing in the motion as well?
No, it's pretty much you're relaxed, because when your body's relaxed, it's gonna be faster.
Yeah,
And at the end of the day, you need to reach your opponent or defend yourself from the opponent. So you need to be relaxed at all the time, to be able to be like fast. Because if you're like this, it's not the same speed. It's not the same speed. And you're gonna consume so much energy that by the end of the combat, if you are able to get to the end, you're gonna be exhausted. You're gonna be dead. I mean, and then you have other combats. I mean, in the case you win, of course. um, but so if you spend all your energy in just one combat, you're done. You're done. I mean, so you need to be able to control that. And literally, it's when you are about to reach the points, it's when all the compression of all the muscles come together. And it's just like it's and that's it. And you relax. And
and
that's it.
you're calling it compression because you're seeing the fibers, they get some tension on them, and because of the tension it's really hard to make them move because you're resisting yourself, but the compression gets you to bring the force out of the ground. Where does the force come from when
Yes.
there's compression at the last final moment?
So let's think about a spring. If you just sit a spring, on the ground, it won't do anything. But if you go down and you compress the spring and then you let it go, what it's gonna do? Boom! It's just gonna jump, and it depends on how much compression you put on it, is how strong or how tall, the spring will go. So it's pretty much the same, with our body. If we don't put compression on our legs before an attack or a defense, pretty much you're not going anywhere. It's just gonna be like very mechanical movement. But if you apply compression, when you go for it, then you'll have a spring on your legs, and it's gonna be like boom. much more stronger, faster. You're gonna reach, further away, to your opponent. So compression is something very, very specific when it comes to this martial art. I cannot speak for all the martial arts, or different combats, but I'm pretty sure most of them use this principle.
That is very cool. And almost I'm not fully getting the analogy because it makes sense to me. Like, oh, you're storing energy in the compression and then the spring gives that force back to you. But you're doing the opposite, right? You're keeping it relaxed.
You're
Before
keeping it relaxed. And again, and that's why I say it's weird and it's sometimes stressful because it's a lot of things happening at the same time. And so you have to be relaxed, but you have to be ready. You have to be compressed, but you have to be, light. So it's like, so you need to understand because each part of the body has to be, in a different setup, pretty much.
Mhm.
And at the exact moment, it's when everything needs to come together, for that strike, or that kick, that defense, getting out of the way. So yeah, it takes years. I mean, you literally never finish learning karate. And that's the truth. I mean, it doesn't matter if you believe you have, because you have a black belt in any kind of martial art, everything, and you already, a big master, you're wrong. That I mean, just by that, I can tell you you're not really a martial artist. Because a black belt is just a degree, but actually the black belt is where the real martial art begins, because I mean, to reach a black belt, it's something, you need to have certain level and everything. So you need to have certain understanding. So when you reach the black belt, new doors open, kind of. So, and I can see my for example, my senseis, I'm talking, they're like 7th-degree black belt. And the highest one is 10th. They're 7th. They're still doing the lowest katas, the white belts, the yellow belts katas, because that's the principle, that's the beginning. And if you understand, not be able to make them, oh, they look nice, they look amazing, understand the kata. That is pretty much the kihon. That's how we call the kihon. So it's the application of the kata, because a lot of people believe, oh, you're gonna do a kata when you're fighting on the street. It's like, no, you're definitely not gonna do it. It's just understanding the possibilities of defense, of attack, and
a kata is just a movement, or is
it's
it
just movements. It's just the form.
just a form?
Let's call it a dance. It's steps. So for example, let me see if I can get this on the frame. Yeah, kind of, yeah. Okay. So let's say, the beginning of yellow belt kata is just go like this, So you're doing 2 defenses, hands closed, 2 defenses, then you have punch, But you see the kata, and it doesn't mean that you're gonna go be in the street and be like, okay, dude, you're gonna stand right next to me, you're gonna attack me so I can defend. Like, that doesn't happen, But only on this first movement, you have an acceleration curve going on. So you apply physics now, because it's not go like to the front or go down. You need to compress, and at the same time you're compressing, you go forward, but the strength of the hip and the rotation goes back because you're defending this way, So if you go like this, nothing's gonna happen. I mean, you're gonna defend with your arm. You need to defend with the whole body, the rotation, the compression, the acceleration curve. So you go like this, and then you go. And it's a completely different strength. It's a completely different technique that if you go like that, I mean, even if I do all my strength like this, is not gonna be the same if I go half strength, putting everything together. It's not the same at all. So understanding those movements, each kata has can have between 20 to 60 movements. So understanding those movements, really understanding them, takes years and years of learning, and you never perfect them.
Very interesting. So
Karate, it's a lifestyle, pretty much.
you're making accelerations in your body, and instead of dissipating them into your own body, you're having the technique to dissipate them as force in the opponent's body.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because, again, in some movements, you also use gravity. You have to let your legs loose to go down faster, because it's faster to go down by gravity than, trying to, get lower, So you just use the gravity on your favor, and then you use the acceleration curve. So pretty much literally goes like this. It doesn't go like this and this, or it doesn't go just like this and then like this. It goes like this. It's literally, an acceleration curve, what is going on. So it's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, and this is things you don't talk to kids, because they'll be like, what? To kids, pretty much you have to have a different kind of teaching process, until they reach certain age that, they can understand what's really going on. But when it comes to adults, you can talk, physics and body and muscles and, yeah, it's way more efficient. So there's a lot of people out there, the pro fighters behind the screen talking, oh, karate doesn't work, blah, 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 MMA, this and that. I've done MMA, I've done karate, I've done Aikido, I've done Taekwondo. I've been through different kind of things. The other day, I was invited to a Krav Maga lesson. I went, I like to try different things and, get to know new people, senseis, and hearing other applications of the pretty much the same techniques at the end of the day. So yeah, mate, I mean, it's silly to say I know everything about martial arts when there's black belts, that they don't even know about this acceleration curve, and everything comes to, having a good sensei, and of course having, the willing to really understand what's going on, and not the, I'm a black belt. That doesn't mean anything to me, maybe if you say you're a black belt, oh my God, he's a black belt. For someone that really knows and can tell about, quality, that doesn't mean anything. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm a pro. I'm not saying I'm the best and I understand everything. Not at all. I mean, this is the way, and I'm pretty much kind of like here, maybe somewhere around here. It's a long way. It's a long way. But what I've learned so far, I can tell I've learned it pretty good, not excellent. But again, it gets there. It gets there after years and years of training. I mean, my sensei has been doing karate for almost 50 years now.
At what part of the acceleration curve do you want to hit, or is it different for each body part?
At the end. So pretty much the acceleration curve is just to go down and forward efficiently. And at the end of the acceleration curve, it's when the rotation of the hip comes over and you defend or you attack.
So you start from a still point, and then
you start from still point, like literally just standing, and then
you reach your fastest acceleration, and do you decelerate again, or is that when you hit at the maximal acceleration?
Come again?
Do you hit at the maximal acceleration, like or do you decelerate first? It makes more sense.
You decelerate pretty much at the end. You don't decelerate and then defend. You need to take advantage of that, gravity going down, the acceleration curve, the rotation, the mass, your foot, staying on the ground, because you move. For example, on this movement, you move the left one, but the right one has to be very stable on the ground, and it doesn't move at all. Your feet set like this, you don't rotate it on that movement. So your base is very solid, so when you put everything together, a solid base, you have the gravity, you have the acceleration curve, you have the hip, you have the mass, and then you put the whole tension at one point, at one moment, it becomes something very strong, very strong. But
Understood.
it's hard to get it all together going on and actually understand it. Actually, it's kind of, it seems like weird, sounds weird, but again, it's not easy.
So it is not easy, but you spent years learning this. You started as a kid, I'm assuming?
Yes, I started when I was 14.
Okay.
Then I stopped for a couple of years because I moved to another country, and that's when I did MMA. You know, and MMA is great. You know, it's fun to watch and everything, but it's, to be honest, it's not really a martial art. You know, there's not even degrees, there's no exams, there's no nothing. You just put a lot of things
Mhm.
together, and then you create this entertainment, because that's pretty much what it is. And that is going to help you on the street. Yeah, it's going to help you on the street, but it's not martial art per se. You know, it's not karate, it's not judo, it's not aikido, it's not, you know, jiu-jitsu, it's not muay thai, it's not, it's a bunch of things, you know.
The
So
arts, the understanding is the art, or the skill is the art, or the
mm,
spiritual stuff even?
no, I mean, the thing is, it's called mixed martial arts, you know, because you put jiu-jitsu for the ground, you can put kickboxing, karate, you put Muay Thai when it comes to knees and elbows. But at the end of the day, it's something that really doesn't have a technique of its own. It's just a mix, you know. So let's say, um, I'm thinking about an example of something else that, you know, can compare to what I'm trying to, you know,
Yeah.
uh, share with you. But yeah, I feel that that's, yeah, it doesn't have its own technique. It's just I grab this from this from this from this, and that's it. So when you're doing mixed martial arts, you have one day of jiu-jitsu, one day of Muay Thai, one day of kicks and punches, and then you put it all together in the cage, you know. But it's not like
So
they don't have their own technique, you
when you
know.
were a kid and you started learning this, and now you see your sensei talking to you about how to use your core, be aware of your core, how to do those 60 moves in each kata, and how to ground. How does he teach you that? How do you learn it? How do you understand it? What's that process of learning and understanding?
He's very patient when it comes to teaching. He's been teaching now for almost 40 years, and he shows all the time, you know, the move once, twice, three times, four times. And then he goes around, you know, looking at your movement. And then he does the lesson for everyone. But when it comes to correcting, you know, you're not going at the same speed as I'm going, or as the other guy or the other girl is going, you know. So he needs to fix the details, you know, individually on the class. And a lot of people, they're just doing it and they're like, oh, I do this because I like karate. And a lot of people are like very dedicated on what's karate and really understanding what's going on, you know. So that also comes into play when, you know, how fast or how far will you go, you know, into the martial art. But he's very patient, he's very dedicated. He really loves what he does. He does karate all day, pretty much. He does karate from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. between lessons and his, you know, own personal trainings. This is a guy that it's pretty much my weight. He's a skinny guy, but he can break a 6-inch wood with
S-
his
it-
fist.
And the 6-inch wood, that is the same principle of like relaxed until you
Relax
hit that
until you
wood.
reach that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that process of getting it exactly right, are you getting the positions exactly right, or are you getting the tensions in your muscles exactly right?
Oh
Is
no,
there
definitely not.
flexibility in what you in
When
what the
you
movement is?
when you're learning, um Pretty much it's first you need to learn the movement. So we go back, let's think about dancing. You need to understand, that it goes like this and not like this, So in karate, it's pretty much the same. You need to understand that this arm will go this way and be 90 degrees, and this one will go this way and be 90 degrees. So you have angles, you have physics. Once again, you have mathematics involved. And at the end of the day, the whole body, it's, curves and angles. And so you just need to understand, how it's going to be. And at the beginning, let's talk about this movement. You might be like this, 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 so you need to, it's okay. At the beginning, you need to understand, that you will be at the same time going like this. Okay, you have your arms right. Now we're going to work on the hip. Now at the same time, you're going to rotate the hip and the arms go up, and then now the acceleration curve. Now, it goes baby steps. So because if it throws everything at the same time, you're gonna be like, what? So it takes time to learn the kata, for example, the way, the kata is pretty much the way. And then understanding, it's a whole different process.
So the form is very important. But let's say you have the arms down and now you're gonna add the hips to it. Your arms are affecting the physics of where your hips are rotating, and then you're changing your hips, and then your arms are gonna rotate with that.
Yeah. So that's part of the connection. You don't move your arms and then your hip. Your hip move your arms. So let's say, for example, I'm a little limited on space here. I'm actually gonna put it here. Sorry. So it's not the same to go like this or go like this. The hip is gonna move the upper part of the body, and then you literally just let go your arm, but it has to be connected. Actually, your hip has to be like up, so the pelvis needs to come up. Pretty much your cheeks go like this, and that's going to strengthen all this, and you have everything connected, moving at the same time, like one piece. If you don't have connection, you can move, just your shoulders, and this is not moving, but when you connect, everything moves at the same time. So the hip moves the arm. The hip moves the arm. It's not 1 and 2. It's 1, 1, 1. I'm just gonna leave my arm here and just see how my arm already moved, and I'm not moving my arm. You see?
Yes.
Starts here and it's gonna end here. So the hip moves everything, and then you just let go. So that's pretty much the principle. It's the hip moves everything. You don't move your legs, you don't move your arms, you move the hip, and everything goes with it.
Very cool. So that's your core, your hip, your there's an awareness there. There's a slight activation in all the muscles of the pelvic floor of your lower abs. But is there how do you learn or keep your awareness? How did you teach yourself to automatically always have a little bit of activation there? Not too much, not too little.
Well, it's pretty much like, and it maybe sounds a little bit dumb, but it's like when you're just like standing up, you're not thinking about putting strength on your legs. It just becomes something automatic. You don't even think about it anymore. But it takes time and repetition and training and training and training. When you reach the point that you don't even think about it. Like, you don't think when you're breathing, unless you're like doing meditation or something. But on your daily basis, you're not like, okay, in, out. It's something that becomes just part of your daily basis, pretty much. Literally, at the end of the day, you're not just like this in karate. You're like this all the time, driving, sitting. Only like literally when you just like lay down is when you fully relax. but you don't even think about it. It just becomes automatic. But it's repetition, repetition. At the end, at the beginning, it's just you just don't do it.
Okay.
You don't even do it at the moment you need to do it, you know, because you have so many things going on that sometimes you don't think about it, or you don't think about your breathing. Breathing is really important when it comes to karate and pretty much every sport, you know. And
Tell me about breathing. How do you breathe?
breathing, it's a pain in the, you know. So pretty much the breathing on the movements, you need to start breathing, and it's like very short breathings. You need to start breathing when you're starting the movement, and then you breathe out when you are reaching the point of, you know, attack or defense, you know. So pretty much it's what we call, you know, the kia at the end. Have you heard like kia? When
Yeah.
someone, it's not just screaming to sound tough, you know, it's you're putting ki, you put in energy, you know, internal energy into the movement. You know, so that sounds is not, oh, it sounds tough. Oh my God, it sounds really good. You know, it's a good scream. That's not, you know, the intention of the ki, you know. So when you breathe out, you help your body compress
You're creating
everything.
space.
Yes, exactly. But at the beginning, you breathe, and you need to breathe, you know, with the diaphragm. If you breathe,
Yes.
you know, up, it's like you're gonna float. Literally, you're gonna float. You're not gonna be able to stand on the ground, you know, like if you would have breathed with the diaphragm. So that's actually something hard to learn, you know, how to, you know, bring the air down and be able to use the full capacity of our lungs. And so yeah, give me 1 second. So let's say I'm like this, and I'm gonna punch forward. I'm gonna punch forward. So I'm just, you know, relax, breathing normally. When I know I'm gonna punch, I just literally go really small breath. And that really helps you compress everything. If you try to be, you know, filled with air and just go like, it just don't work. It doesn't feel natural.
You're stuck, you're more rigid. Like it's
You are, how can I explain it? I'm trying to translate it. I'm thinking it in Spanish and then put it into English. It's just when you, so try to feel your lungs,
yeah.
then be able to apply strength into something. So it's, okay, let's take a weight. Let's take a weight.
Take
Okay.
away.
If you try to lift something, you're not like, you're like, you know, you, even when you see people on the gym, they, what they're doing, when they apply strength, they breathe out. And then when they start to relax and bring the weight down, you know, if you
Like
have all the air in, it's just, I'm just trying to put it into words, but it's like,
I feel it. I feel you.
I'm not able to apply full strength when I'm full of air, you know. I just can't.
That is very cool that you, and
It's
I don't mind at all that you're not able to like really the words to it, because it is a feeling. It is exactly the feeling I'm trying to describe in a more sciencey way, but we'll get there, I think.
I'm pretty sure my sensei will be able to explain it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, I must visit your
I
sensei.
can't.
I must visit your sensei when I'm there.
When you come in December, please just, you know, come by the dojo and I will introduce you, and, you know,
Awesome.
yeah, that will be amazing, brother.
Hmm. Chi, the energy. Do you have a sort of meditation practice or like a spiritual dimension to your practice of karate?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you need to be relaxed. So it doesn't matter, how, and this takes time as well. I mean, you know about meditation and these things. But when you walk into the dojo, everything else needs to stay out. Work, family, couple, stress, whatever is making you worry about something, you need to let it out. You need to be, present at the moment. Because if you're just like training and you're thinking, oh, tomorrow I have this appointment, I have this meeting, you're not gonna focus. Nothing's gonna work. And sometimes I'm not able to do it. Sometimes I just, get into the class and I'm just thinking about, the things I need to do tomorrow, you know, or I become stressed because something's not going well into the class for me. I'm not doing it properly. I'm not able to understand, and you get frustrated and then your mind becomes, very narrow. And you're gonna do anything. You're gonna do anything. So yeah, there's this spiritual part where you need to let everything go. That it's not an easy task. It's not easy at all, But again, it becomes with time and practice and understanding. And at the end of the day, we do we do live by karate. It's a lifestyle, not just a sport or a martial art. So you try to bring karate to, your daily basis, but you don't bring your daily basis onto karate.
Yes, makes sense.
Do I?
Yes, no, no,
Yeah.
very, very
Yeah.
much. Like I feel that I see in you this like karate, discipline, loving mindset. Like I see the karate in you, or
Oh,
maybe that's um. But you have some other sports you do that
yes,
might not fit with this karate mindset, or maybe they help.
they
Tell
do.
me, for
Actually, it
example,
does. For example, kiteboarding,
yeah.
that is, my second main sport. Kiteboarding, it does, the compression, you know, on the sorry, on the, on your core, it's necessary when you're doing, when you're kiteboarding, and that's something I got right away from karate. First, second, positions, how you're gonna put your legs, to be able to direct the board. The same thing. You do it everything with the hip. So for me, being able to learn kiteboarding and understanding what's going on for me was just like that. Because I understand about the hip, I understand about the core, I understand about the breathing, you know, and I understand about positions, and angles. So when they told me you need to keep your kite at 45 degrees, I know what you're talking about. I know that my arms need to be in a certain position, so it became very easy to me, that part of the, of that sport, for example.
There are some similarities in the use of the core, because you have this thing where you're hanging from a trapeze, right?
Yeah, is it the harness?
And that's at your core, so maybe you can even press against that, or
That the harness will go literally, all the way around the core. And that function is to, it's where the kite holds on pretty much. So you're not like with your arms like fighting with the kite, you know. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a, a strong core, the kite can pull you and you literally bend forward, or backwards, or
yes,
sideways. Because
because that
it does give you supports. But at the end of the day, I mean, you need to be able to, put your part of the deal into the sport, So you need to have a strong core, because if not, literally, sometimes you have wind gusts that will literally, you're gonna be like this, 20 knots, 20 knots, and suddenly 23 is, and it's gonna pull you, and it's literally gonna bend you forward, because again, the harness and the kite, are attached to your core. So it
So
literally either pulls you forward or either pulls you all the way backwards and makes you arc your back.
so do you, to like accommodate a 23 knot gust of wind, do you keep some extra reserve tension in your core so that you're just able to react to it like automatically,
Not
mechanically,
really. Not,
or
I
do
mean,
you
yeah.
react to it?
Again, I mean, you're not full strength all the time. Like, oh, it's just have it stable. You're not just like a spaghetti, like, oh, loose. You are like, strength, but you're not applying full strength. You're like trying to impress the girl on the beach, like, nah, come on. It's just be able to, once again, have upper and lower part connected.
Okay. So in karate, you just have the ground, but in kiteboarding, you have the water and like a slightly unstable board and a slightly unstable kite that both have forces going the opposite way. So there's a grounding on both sides. Are
No,
you?
actually, they don't go opposite ways because
Uh-huh.
the kite, it's it's um it's an aerodynamic profile. So it's pretty much like the wing of an airplane. You know, Underneath it pushes and up it pulls. You know, so but it's not trying to lift you up. You know what I mean? So if I bring my
Mhm.
kite to 12 degrees, 12 p.m., it's not gonna try to take me all the way to the sky. It's just gonna stay there by physics.
Mhm.
You have the wind pushing and pulling, but it's not gonna pull you all the way, up. Now, when you bring the kite down to 45 degrees, the force is going sideways. You have no way to counter that pull. So you literally flow with it. But it's not like one thing is going here, one thing is going there, one thing is going there. Everything goes on the same direction.
So when you're controlling your kite and your board, making a jump, for example, um, are you focusing on getting the angles of the kite right, getting the angles of the point where your
Yes.
board points right? But are you controlling that in terms of looking at it, or are you feeling the forces that you should be feeling?
At the beginning, you look at it because you're starting to learn, where you need to go and how you feel it. So you put together your sides and your body until it becomes again automatically, something natural for you. So now when you're gonna jump, that you need to get your kite across, the 12 p.m. So you're at like 10:30, you need to bring it to 1. You don't even think about it. You're not like, okay, now it's at 1. Okay, I'm ready. It just go boom, boom, and you pull the bar. But at the beginning, yeah, you look at it and you look at your board, you look at everything until you make the relation between what you see and what you feel. You reach a point where you don't have to see anymore. You can even do it with eyes closed, making sure that no one's around, of course. But you can even close your eyes and be able to jump.
Is the impulse you put into the bar, that's how you jump, right? Or you're using your knees, but there's that's a momentary thing. Is that similar to your acceleration curve? That there's a build up to a certain
Mm,
point?
yeah, we can relate it pretty much because you have to do a couple things at the same time. So you need to bring the kite, you know, to bring it up to the other side a little bit, pull the bar and pop with the board. So it has to be, in very specific moments. But the acceleration curve, I will say that it starts when you start to bring the kite, to this side because you do it fast. You don't go like, because then you're not gonna generate, the enough pull to come up. So I will say that acceleration curve will start at the point where you start to bring the kite when you're starting to pull and when you start to pop the board. And that's once you pop and you have the bar all the way down, I think that's when you reach the apex of the acceleration curve.
That must feel pretty cool. to
Yes,
jump
it feels
high.
amazing. It feels
Scary,
amazing, to be honest.
scary. Um, so there's like also two opposing emotions in this kiteboarding. It's like an adrenaline rush, but you've told me as well that if you're alone, far out on the ocean, the sun is shining, the wind is blowing, it's very
Yes.
relaxing, meditative.
Yes, because you can just sail, and just enjoy, experience, or you can jump, or you can do tricks, or you can do freestyle, or you can do, it can be as extreme as you want, pretty much, or it can be as relaxing as you want. Depends on, what you want to do. But yeah, when you're just like, sailing around, kiting around, it's literally you're not thinking about anything. Once it becomes something automatic, you don't have to be looking at your kite or your board or something. When it comes um, muscle memory, pretty much, you don't have to think about it. You can just literally sail and enjoy and yeah, for me, it's just going out, 3 kilometers away from the coast and being on my own and for me, it's just relaxing, listening, the wind through your ears, listening just like the waves, crashing. Then you have some birds, then you have the sun going down. And yeah, for me, that was what's one of the moments that I'm the most relaxed in my life, to be honest.
So, are there any thoughts going on?
Yeah, at that moments, I mean, it's just for me, I mean, I'm not a religious person, but I do believe in God, but I don't put a name, on God. I don't, and I respect all the religions and everything, but just it's not something for me. And so when I'm out there, I'm just literally just like thanking God for being able to have these moments, for the family I have, for the friends I have, for my health, for, being able to enjoy my adventures and, living my dreams. And yeah, for me, that's the kind of praying and meditation that I do when I'm kiteboarding, to be honest. When I'm in
That's
nature,
that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
yeah,
Um,
it's actually one of the things that I enjoy the most, out of kiteboarding. Not the jumping, not the tricks and everything. It's just more about that connection you get with the elements, that you're using to do this sport, because you're using the water and you're using the wind. So yeah, I feel like yeah, and now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, I feel that that's what I take the most out of kiteboarding, to be honest.
okay. So, um, what about I see two helmets behind you, and that's
Oh
quite a
yeah.
different experience than three helmets. Excuse me.
There's a fourth missing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's they're washing it.
That is very different than the sun and the ocean. It's the racetrack, right?
Yes,
How
yes,
does that compare to the other two sports you do, and how do you feel with that?
it's. I think there's no comparison. I mean, the only comparison I can make is that you need to be uh well dedicated, and compromised to the sport. But out of that, there's nothing like being on the bike or the kite or the karate that I can say, oh yeah, you have this common thing, between these three sports. Being on the bike, it's a completely different animal. I mean, just riding sometimes to speeds up to 250, 260, it's yeah, it's just wild. It's just wild. And you need to, well, one thing I can put, to compare to karate, it's yeah, you need to leave everything out of your mind, and just be present at that moment and, focus on what you're doing. Because if not, you're definitely gonna crash. You're gonna be on the bike and taking the curve and then, passing, the other racers and just thinking about, oh, tomorrow, yeah, I'm gonna have breakfast tomorrow. Yeah, I have a coffee with, with Joey. And it's not something you do. You just, present on the moment. But I can say it's easier to do it on the bike than doing it in karate. Because I feel because of the adrenaline and the, being that you are in a constant danger, on the bike, I feel that the mind and the body, they just block that automatically and bring your senses, you know, to its maximum, to be able to perform, you know, this activity. When it comes to karate, that you're not, you know, full all the time, then yeah, you still think about a couple things, you know, out of the dojo. So yeah, I feel on the bike, it just becomes something, I don't know, like how to survive pretty much. Yeah, that's what it comes to my mind. I mean,
It's simply because the bike is a lot more dangerous
oh
and
yeah, I feel like
the
literally it's like a
there's less
survival
brakes.
instinct, you
Uh-huh.
know. And that's why you are not thinking about anything else. You're just on the moment.
Have you had any close calls?
Um, Not really. I mean, well, a couple, but not racing. You know, it was
Okay.
more, you know, on the highway. And not even like racing, you know, but yeah, then suddenly you have a 3 meter snake coming across, you know, the road, and then or you have a car switching lanes, you know. Yeah, I did have some, you know, close calls, you know, on the highway, but not racing, to be honest. I mean, racing, I just fell twice. Once was like 60 kilometers
Mhm.
on a curve, and to be honest, with the suit and the helmet and, you know, the boots and everything, I literally felt nothing. And the second time was doing drag racing. So when I go out, you know, on the race, I bring the engine to like 11,000 RPM, you know, before releasing the clutch. And I didn't saw that at the start line of the quarter mile there was like coolant on the ground. It was already absorbed, you know, so you see a stain, but you don't see water, you don't see the liquid. So when I released the clutch, the bike literally just went like this, and I fell. So I was going like maybe 5-10 kilometers, and I just roll. Like I
Uh,
got that out of Aikido. Instead of just like falling and I just like roll, and I actually got back on my feet without just like nothing, you know, because and I get you get that instinct and that natural flow because of the practice. So in Aikido, yeah, I used to, you know, like, you know, you bring your arm and then you roll, you so you don't crash. So you just, you know, and that's literally what happened on that day. I actually have the video somewhere.
okay. I would love to see that. I'll look for it. So I'm curious, just as we talked about karate and how you use your muscles, how you use your breath, how do you do that in a motorcycle racing? Because I can imagine that if you're very tight and controlled, very rigid in your body, it's going to take a lot of energy and you might
Yes.
not be taking your turns correctly. But if there's a risk of like crashing, you might like really want to be sure that you're in control. How do you use your muscles and breath while you're racing?
While I'm racing, my breathing, it's a constant breathing, you know. So it's kind of like when you're running, you know, you need to keep a pace of breathing. You know, you don't breathe in, you know, when you're starting the curve, and you breathe out when you get out of the curve. You usually like having a constant breathing, um, to have a you know, a level heartbeat, you know. And you're talking a level heartbeat, but you're talking about something over 130, 140, you know, when you're racing, because you have the adrenaline, you know, pumping. And I've never be able to measure it while racing, because you cannot wear the watch, for example. That is the only, you know, tool that I have to measure my heartbeats. Um, but coming out and then, you know, taking it or getting into the ambulance, you know, to check everything's okay. Then yeah, you see, you know, heart rates up to 140, 150, and but you're already out of the bike, you know. So I'm pretty sure, I mean, it's way higher than that, you know. I've my maximum has been, I think, like 190 a couple
Mhm.
times in, you know, in different situation and scenarios. But and the muscles, pretty much you just hold one position, you know, and you move hip and arms. But yeah, I mean, and again, it's the same thing. When you move the hip, you move the arms out. So for example, on the turn, you know, You don't go like this and just turn. You go like this. So you have the accelerator, you have the clutch, and you're like this, and your body's out of the motorcycle pretty much, to counterweight and be able to bring the bike, lower. But it's not like you're full tension all the time. You are very tense, but it's not all the time. Plus, usually a race lasts, few minutes. So the adrenaline, I feel is what keeps you going, that far till the end of the race. Because when you come out and the adrenaline rush, goes by, oh, you feel like crap. You feel like crap. Oh my God, it's just, yeah. You come out and you only think about, taking a shower, get something to eat, and go to bed. Just like
You
that.
must burn a lot of calories and get a
Oh
lot of
yeah. Oh
stress
yeah, for
out
sure.
of that.
And just the suit is like 8 kilograms of leather and protections. And well, here in Yucatan, you've seen the weather. I mean, you were like 30 something, 40 something, and then you're out in the sun with this, and then you have
Celsius, yeah.
3 kilograms of the helmet, and then you have the boots. So you have on top of you, you have almost 15 kilograms between everything. And then you have a hot weather. So oh my God, it's interesting, to be honest, to experience how far you can take your body, and how far you can train it to be able to perform these activities. So yeah, I think that's what I like the most out of the activities that I do, to be honest.
Which one do you think is the hardest?
To practice or to understand?
You got to answer both now.
Okay. To practice, definitely motorcycle. To understand, karate.
That makes sense. Yeah.
To practice, definitely motorcycle. I mean, first of all, you need to have to say, okay, I'm going this fast and I'm gonna reach this turn and I'm gonna brake 100 meters before the turn, but you need to hit the brakes, and then you have other, racers around you, trying to pass by as well, and you're trying to pass by as well. And yeah, I feel, yeah, that's the hardest one. Yeah, that's the hardest one.
When you're taking a turn, what are you focusing on? Are you trying to get your perfect path in the shortest angle, or are you thinking of your
Depends
speed? Yeah.
depends on the kind of turn you're talking about. But for example, your sights is not in front of you. You're looking at where you want to go. So let's say on the turn, I'm not like this, but I'm like this. You know, I'm looking where I want to go. So you focus on one spot, and that's where you're going. But at the same time, obviously, you need to focus on other racers. You know, and depends on the how wide is the turn, is if you're gonna open and close, or you're gonna close, open, close. So yeah, it depends. It really depends on and what comes next as well, on that turn. So yeah, that's pretty much very changeable depending on the track.
So it's interesting that you look at where you have to go or where you want to end up, because that's the important bit, right? What's
Well,
before that is
try to
automatic.
try to do this on a bicycle.
Uh-huh.
Try to go, or even walking. Even walking, you can just walk, try to walk on a straight line, or you're looking sideways. Just keep looking sideways. And when you look down again, you're going to see that your body went this way. So the body wants to go where you're looking at.
That is kind of weird, right?
Yeah. But try to do it on the bicycle, or walking or running, and you're not going to be able to stay, on a straight line. You're going to start moving forward or towards, your side.
Exactly. Is there a difference when you say I have a short or like a very narrow turn, or not enough space because there's all these motorcyclists around me, or I have a very wide open turn I can use all the space in? Is there a difference in your focus, your breathing, or your muscles, your tension?
Not really.
Okay.
You're at that moment, you're focusing more not to crash, and once you start to take a turn, you cannot you need to stay on a path pretty much, you know, to respect other racers. So you thinking more about what's surrounding you than, oh, I'm gonna put some tension here or that. It's just,
You don't have time for that.
yeah, no, you don't have time for that. I'm trying to think actually, like, what kind of physical things I do when I like, you know, on a turn. But the only thing I can think of is just like, don't get out of the track, don't hit the other guys, you know, keep this way. Maybe you think about, you know, not bringing the gas up or, you know, or the accelerating, because the accelerating on a curve will make you, you know, kind of like dig it. So it's a weird sensation. So once you reach the turn, you don't decelerate or you don't accelerate. You pretty much start accelerating again until you reach like 3/4 of the turn. That's when you start hitting on the gas progressively again. But yeah, I cannot even think about the breathing. It's you do a normal breathing again. It's just, you know, to keep it steady.
But it's a high rate of breathing because your heart is at a high rate as well. Short
Yeah,
breath.
I
deep
don't
breath?
want I don't want to lie to you. I don't know. I
Yeah.
cannot think about it. To just breathe. I'm pretty sure it is a heavy breathing because your heart rate is very high. But that I'm aware of, like I can tell you, oh yeah, I remember how it's. To be honest, I will be lying to you.
All right. Um, so when you go into the turn, there's a bit of a back brake, right? Before you as you slide into your turn.
It depends if you're coming from a straight or you're coming from other turns. So you come like from out of a chicane or something. It depends on how fast you're going before the turn. When you come into a turn after the straight line, yes, definitely you're gonna have, you know, heart braking because you're coming over 200 kilometers, and then you're gonna, if you try to enter the curve at that speed, you know, at least at my level, you know, and the, you know, here, you're definitely going out of the track.
Yeah.
You're definitely going out of the track. You need to bring your speed like to one something, you know, to 100 and something.
Because the danger is that you slide out of the track because you're
Oh
heavily.
yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, the faster you need to go, the lower. But I've actually, when I fell going 60, it's because I bring the bike so low that the rear tire came out of contact, you know, with the ground. So I don't know if you've seen the wheel of a sport bike. So you have, you know, the whole tire, then you have the face, but you have like a small peak, you know, that goes like
Mhm.
this because the tire is wide, but then you have, you know, the face of the tire going, you know, back to the rim. Well, pretty much what I did is I reached that little peak that doesn't give you any grip, and I just slide out at 60 kilometers, you know, because I was actually training, you know, doing like just eights in a small area. So you need to bring the bike really low to be able to make the turn because the sport bikes, um, you don't have, you know, if you just go like this, you're gonna make a big wide turn, you know, so you need to bring the bike lower. Um, and yeah, so you try to, you know, take the turn at 200 and something. Maybe there's some turns that you can do at that speed, you know, not here, but yeah, I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure there's some. I mean, if you see the MotoGP guys, I mean, the speeds they reach is just something out of this world. I mean,
And so this is something you have to learn is when you still have grip, what your angle is compared to the turn you're taking, the speed you're taking. There's some sense of the grounding as well
oh
here of your
yeah, definitely,
tires.
definitely. I mean, so what I do on whenever I get on a new motorcycle or a car or something, I put everything uh up to test. So I test the brakes, you know, wet, dry, turning, you know, at different speeds, and I do the same thing, you know, while accelerating. If I accelerate on the curve, what it's gonna do is gonna slip. It's gonna just like start pushing me out of the curve. Um, so I do test these kind of things to be able to feel the motorcycle, and then I know how hard I can brake before, you know, I start doing a front wheelie, or how hard can I accelerate before it starts going up or, you know, going sideways. So yeah, you need to first of all, you need to get to know what you're driving, you know, and what are the conditions. And of course, I mean, you're talking about a track that it's out on the, you know, exposed to the elements. So maybe you have dust that you cannot see, but you have a higher temperature on the track that will give you more grip than if it's colder. So these kind of things can make, you know, the grip, you know, get different. But since you know your bike, you can feel something's wrong, something's different, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you are, you know, holding a little bit until you understand what's going on, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's and I'm just like trying to take my mind back to, like, you know, the moment. And yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, I feel when you get to know your bike pretty well and how it brakes and how it accelerates and how it goes down, once you get to the track, you know, you start to push a little bit, you know, maybe this turn you did it at 120, the next one you will do it at 122, 124, your tires are getting hotter, the track is getting hotter, you're getting more grip, but you feel it, you feel how the bike's steady. When you're running out of grip, suddenly you start feeling like, you know, weird movements on the tail of the bike, and that's when you know it's like, oh, okay, bring it down, bring it down, bring it down, you know, or how far out of the turn it's pushing you when you get the grip, but you going too fast, you know, it's gonna require you to go more wider, you know, than if you go at a lower speed. But again, that depends on the experience of the biker, you know, the tires, the temperature, the many factors.
Something I'm trying to understand is how you know your bike, how your maybe your brain categorizes all these variables that go into it and make you have a sort of a picture representation of how that bike is to you. I have no idea at this
Well,
point.
it has to become part of you, you know. It has to, you have to be one with the bike. I mean, I know it sounds kind of like cliche, like something you see on a movie. Oh, like Fast and Furious, I'll live for those 10 seconds or less, blah blah blah. Yeah, I know it sounds kind of like that, but the truth is not. I mean, whatever you're using, doesn't matter if it's a motorcycle, if it's a bicycle, if it's a knife, if it's whatever it is, you need to understand, you know, how it works, how it behaves, and how far can you go with it. Because
Mhm.
of course I don't have the same experience and level as a MotoGP, you know, racer. Probably we can take the same bike and I'm gonna do, I don't know, maybe a minute, you know, longer to do the same track, just to say something. So that doesn't happen when you know what you're using, you know, and how far can you take it. It's not the same to take a 600cc, you know, on a turn that take 1000cc, you know, on a turn, you know, and it's not the same when it's cold, when it's hot, when it's rainy, when it's, so you need to test out, you know, how it's going to behave in different situations. So for me, even like going out on the street, I test the bike braking on dust, braking on weird stains on the ground that might be diesel, might be oil, might be, you know, whatever you can think of, you know, but you need to be, since you know you're going to brake and there's a variable things that might happen, you can fall, maybe you're not, nothing's going to happen, maybe you're going to slip it a little bit, and once you get out of the stain, you're going to stabilize the bike. But since you're aware that that might happen, if it happens, you're kind of ready for it, you know. But if it happens when you're not ready because you're not expecting it, because it literally happens at a natural situation, definitely you're gonna fall,
Mhm.
or you're gonna crash, or you're gonna, something bad's gonna happen. But if you know, oh, on these stains, I apply 40% of braking instead of 60% or 70%. Oh, if it's wet, I know I don't have ABS brakes. If I hit the rear one, it has to be to a 30%, because if I hit the 40%, you know, braking, it's gonna start to slide. You know, if I hit the front brake, When it's dry, when it's hot, instead of sliding, it's gonna bring, the front wheelie, so you understand how much pressure apply on the brakes on each situation. And the same happens with acceleration. If you see there's dust, you're not gonna accelerate as fast if it's dry and hot, or if it's wet, or the kind of pavement you have. So yeah, you need once you test out of these conditions and you have multiple variables, it makes you more complete when you're using this tool, in this case, the motorcycle.
In you, there's a lot of mind stuff going on, a lot of focus, a lot of training. And I feel like you have a very strong personality, which is also how you got so of course, you're welcome.
Thanks, man.
I think how you get some attention on Instagram and on your social media. How did these sports influence who you are?
To be honest, in nothing really, because the person I show on social media is the person I am, and the only thing I don't do is I don't show my personal life. Like, I don't show my family, my house, my girlfriend, I just keep all that out of social media, because that's my private personal life. What I show you, it's what is my job, that it's travel blogging, and that's what I show you. But the person you see on the videos or on the pictures, mostly on the videos, because you get the sense of the person. It's the person you see on the streets. I mean, and you've seen me on both sides of the coin. You've seen me, filming and doing these videos and everything, and you've seen me out of the camera, and just having a good time, because what I do is what I've been doing for a lot of years. It's just I just started to bring it to social media pretty much, and make it my job and my living. But I'm not a character, on social media pretty much.
What I'm trying to say is that the karate or the calmness of the surfing or the adrenaline of the motorcycle, is that something your personality decides on liking, and that's innate in you, or is
Yes.
that developed?
Yes. No. What I do is because I do it because I like it.
Okay.
And then I show the person I am. It's not like, oh, people's gonna like, motorcycles. People's gonna like karate. To be honest, not at all. I do what I like. Actually, when I do the videos and the places I show and everything, it's places I want to be, at. It's experiences I want to live, and I share with the followers. But
See that on Camarita
the aventura.
Aventura. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, man. But good
Thank you
luck
so
with
much for
the
the
podcast, and whatever I can help you with. I mean, just please let me know, man. Just let me know. I mean,
Thank you, Alex. You can follow him on Camarita de Aventura on Instagram and YouTube. This was the Invisible Strings Podcast.